Well, greetings to you all, and welcome to today's introduction of the use and benefits of eProject Builder. So, you've decided you want to standardize the way that energy efficiency projects are assembled, or at a minimum, how they're documented and memorialized, but you just haven't found a good way to go about it. Well, you've come to the right place today. This is it, eProject Builder. Our goal together today is to familiarize you with the resource in a bit of a slide presentation overview, and then we'll spend a little time working in the Excel data entry templates. And finally, we'll collectively review a bit of an online system demonstration so that you get a real sense for this valuable tool. To be sure, this is a primer, but with a little hands-on and familiarizing yourself with the host of companion support materials, including manuals and some videos, and even the opportunity to sign up for advanced or customized group trainings, you too can take advantage of the benefits of eProject Builder. When we think about eProject Builder, it's important to share with you that EPB is sponsored by the United States Department of Energy and maintained by Lawrence Berkeley National Labs, mutually funded by the Federal Energy Management Program and EERE's Weatherization and Intergovernmental Programs Office. As such, EPB is a secure, free, web-based national project tracking and reporting system for use by, well, anybody fulfilling an energy efficiency project. It can be used for energy savings performance contracting, utility energy services contracts, traditional appropriations funded projects, really anything that is based on energy efficiency fits well into the confines of recording work in eProject Builder. Both sponsors see the value of having this centralized, standardized way to collect and maintain data regarding energy efficiency projects across all the nation. Now, when you look at these slides, I'm not going to read every bullet for you. We just want to make sure that you have the opportunity to walk through them, and we'll point out some important salient information from time to time. We certainly know that early on, people talked about, well, who's using this? Well, now the systems holds over 1,400 projects in about of a 50-50 split between federal and state and local marketplaces. Lots of projects going into the system as we speak. It is the new platform for NAESCO, the National Association of Energy Services Companies accreditation process, as well as a qualifier for those who want to be on the United States Department of Energy qualified ESCO list. Anytime we think about these systems, we think about the power of data management and what that really does for you. And when you think about it, we all want to relay information in the form of facts. And this system allows you to collect those facts and have the ability to report them at any time. It really puts you in an audit-ready scenario. It allows you to customize reports and have the ability to reproduce those, well, at the drop of a hat. The system not only allows you to build a project using standardized formulation and federal schedules if you so wish, but it allows you, as John will show, the variability of entering only the salient data that you think is important. Still, it affords you the opportunity to track measurement and verification, the proof, the validation and persistence that these projects do in fact pay for themselves through the full term of the agreement. Additional benefits, well, standardizing what can be collected. If you're a state or a large agency, you may want to define which fields you want to collect for your field of providers and always have that readily available to promote to new users. One of the other things that's really critically important about a system that's centralized like this is, well, we all typically change roles in today's world. That to say, there's a pretty good chance that you won't be in the chair that you're in 20 years from now. This centralized methodology allows you to pour the information into a location that can be passed from user to user, of course, only authorized users, over time. Really creates a powerful way for you to access an extraordinary amount of information about the project as it was built, developed, and continues to perform. We talk about the system being secure. It's important that you know that. Not just anyone can go look at your information. You must invite them. And this is really done in a couple of ways. Number one, in the online system, we're going to show you that it requires a two-step verification that's tied to your email system, so or your email address. This is a powerful way for the system to always know that the right users are there. Appropriate users have access to the system only when they register, which we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. As a second component to the system, we will talk about the fact that we will use Excel typically as a development or entry methodology. Now, this means that the primary tool for gathering and assembling this information is Microsoft Excel, something that most of us are all very, very familiar with. From an additional security standpoint, well, of course, it's an encrypted protocol, and the lab continues to subject the system to vulnerability testing, which it continues to perform very, very well. There are three real roles in the system. As you see them here, the project initiator or customer or owner, the ESCO or project builder, and then these other invited participants that we'll call viewers or voyeurs, if you will, having the ability only to look in to the projects that they're invited to, certainly not having the ability to make any changes at all. You see here in this slide that in each case, there is a requirement that those users be registered. And I'm going to show you the arduous process of registering to use eProject Builder. It's simple and straightforward. We always try to make fun of it because we do hear from time to time people saying, oh my, this could take a long time. I've got a lot on my plate. I really don't know if I can manage a system like that. Well, for the owner, registering takes less than a minute. Um, Initiating a project, remarkably simple. Again, we'll show you that. And then the other role for the owner is to review all the collected and submitted project data that the ESCOs put into the system and approving that it's accurate and just as you have agreed to. For the ESCO, having registered, well, it's their role to enter the project data. Um, this is in a project development methodology that most of you are familiar with. There'll be this long iterative process of determining measures, gathering data, actually constructing a plan for implementation, all the type of things that you're very familiar with. That's the ESCO's role. When they've got that assembled, then they'll submit it for project approval back to the owner. And finally, just again to review, only viewers can view project information as invited with the no other ability to make changes. So as we talk to about the system a little bit, we want to talk about what you see when you log in. This would be the landing page. And from that landing page, we want you to know as a reminder that you'll always have to request an account if you're a first-time user. And so we've built that little circle around it. So you see that requesting an account is the first order of business. To illustrate for you where that's at, this URL, eprojectbuilder.lbl.gov, is where you will find the page that will allow you to request an account. And here on screen for you is the registration page. Now that registration page shows you everything that's required to request an account. Of course, you have name, address, city, state, zip, and that ever important concept, I'll zoom in here a little bit, of your email address. That's how the site knows you. System asks you, how will you be using it? Are you going to be an owner or an ESCO? Would you like to attend upcoming additional training webinars, which you can answer yes or no? or they've automated the process here so that you can simply register for the next advanced training, or if you'd like a repeat of our message today, you could register for that next introductory training demonstration. Down here in the lower left, you see that the system asks you, what are you requesting? Now, here's an interesting little piece of information. You can request both sites. Now, for that to make any sense, I need to explain them. The EPB main site is where real data is collected, but the authors of the system recognize that we all might want a little hands-on ability to see and explore, play with the system to see what's engaged and what your responsibilities might be. So there is a training site as well. We encourage you that when you request an account, just move these sliders both to the right. Ask for both accounts. Then you have no need to return to this area. How did you hear about it? Well, of course, that's just a little marketing information that's gathered so that we know where the information is being passed around regarding eProject Builder. And finally, which market segments do you work in? Now, if you're an owner, obviously you're only in one of the market segments. But the ESCO community, you may have several of these marketplaces that you're in. This is just a little information gathering. So once again, to register for the account, you go to eprojectbuilder.lbl.gov. Now, the other thing that you can do in the training site is you can be both the owner and the ESCO. So if you want to see how the other side participates in using eProject Builder, well, you'll need two email addresses. One that registers you as the owner, and a second that you would register yourself as the ESCO. Then you could separately log in and see the different roles as you can participate in them in the system. So knowing that you're a registered user now, we look at this login page and say, what I'm going to need here, well, I would need that unique email address and my unique password, and then I would log in. The system will ask you for that verification, that two-step verification, and since we're going to demonstrate that, I won't talk any more about it. But that would bring you here. And these slides are simply to give you a bit of a flavor about a variety of the screens that you would see as you moved through the system. So you could initiate a project, manage existing projects, or enter data, or you could download a template. Now this is the owner's screen. And I'm just going to move forward and say, here's the ESCO screen. How do I know the difference? Well, the first three decision points are the same. Subsequently, for the ESCO, there is this NAESCO accreditation application and this DOE qualified list of ESCOs application. That's why they look just a little different. Stepping a little bit deeper, now we've logged in, we're looking at our portfolio of projects. Just to give you a bit of an overview, of course, there's home. This is the portfolio page. There would be a section for analysis and reporting. You can't access that right now. It's being modernized, soon to be available. Then there's a benchmarking section that really allows you to look at past projects, applications, which are the applications to be accredited by NAESCO, are the application for DOE qualified list, and then help and documentation. And I want to point out and remind you often that help and documentation is always available on the screen you're on. You may notice here at the bottom of the page, the separate email address that says, hey, I have a question right now. I could send an email to epb-support@lbl.gov. Along the left, you see that we are in that portfolio page and a couple of active options to create a new project or download a data template. Across the top, you see the number of approved projects, not those pending, but the ones approved. It's illustrated by a quantity there. The total implementation price of those approved, again, reminding you, not pending, but approved, and then the total estimated savings for those projects. Down below, you see a three-dot stack. As is typical for web-based programs, that would be a more section. There's an ID that the system applies automatically to each project. The project name as created by the project initiator or owner. My role as I'm using the system. So when you look here, you see that I'm both the project initiator and the project builder, sort of a unique capability that I have. Down here, this individual is only the project builder. That's how these would be separated. Market segments as they were identified in how the project was initiated, or initiated, the award date, and so on. Lots of information available for you in the portfolio page. One of the things that's really powerful here is you can see that I have the ability to modify which columns that I actually see. If I no longer need to see the award date, I can just click on award date, and by toggling that switch on and off, that column will appear and hide appropriately. Going a little bit deeper into a particular project, if we dive into one, we see a little bit of a project summary about the type of project, its number, that we're using the calculating format here. John will talk more about that, and a non-calculating version. And then there is a version ID. As the system continues to be modernized, this identifies for you which version this project was stored under, my role, the project status, its total performance period, its annual estimated savings, and a next step box. Now, all these things are designed to make the system as user-friendly as it possibly can. I'm logged in as the owner here, so I have the ability to unlock a project. ESCOs can't do that. Only the project initiator can do that. Again, to download a template, view project data, and so on and so forth down the left. Diving just a little bit further down, we wanted to be sure and show you this Manage Documents section. And that's for the particular reason that I would describe this for you as an electronic file cabinet. An electronic file cabinet that avails for you 500 megabytes of storage ability. This could include the RFP for the project, the response. It could include the IGA. It could include witnessing reports, back office calculations like load studies of heat or cooling load need, all the pieces and parts that we typically assemble to develop these projects. All the files can be stored together in this lockbox that is only available to the people that are so authorized. We no longer have to worry about IT making a change and I can't find that old project. Just put the files right here. Additionally, for the occasions where we all like to take and record the pre-construction photos, if you will, you can zip those up into a file and land them here in this Manage Documents area. Really very powerful asset to the system to have the ability to reach out to all those historic documents. One of the other real powers of the system is measurement and verification. These are just a couple of standardized reports. Again, I'll zoom in so that we can see a little bit closer. As an example, this is one project, multiple measures in that project, and you can see the headings as they go across that are about utility. Further across to the right would be about dollars, lots of information there. And then this snapshot, love this one. This snapshot that indicates the performance year and shows you the actual performance of the system, of the project. Estimated annual cost, guaranteed annual cost, verified annual cost. Wow. This is my project snapshot year over year for the entire project over time. Really very powerful way to see that the project is doing exactly what you expected a paid for by savings project to do. If we dive a little bit further into a particular project, you see that there's an M&V summary page, illustrates that there are multiple projects here and a number of tools availed for you to use. Once again, a very powerful way to know that not only is the upfront developed project data available to you, but the performance, the measurement and verification is tethered right to the project as well. Now, we spend a lot of time talking about measurement and verification because we know that this is incredibly important. And so within this slide deck, we have a couple of resources that you may or may not have seen yet: the business case for applying M&V, strategies for successful M&V, understanding a savings guarantee and why you would do work this way anyhow. Now, among the help documentation, there is always a set of these slides. So if you're wondering how you get connected to this hyperlink to read this document, well, that's how. Go to the help menus, pull down the slides, and that hyperlink will lead you right there. In this picture, there are some additional ones. The ESPC program and project principles, powerful multi-page document. We strongly recommend every project participant to read those project principles and get a sense about how the industry, the state's energy offices, and the Energy Services Coalition have come together and charted for you project principles that we think every project should abide by. An ESPC toolkit with a number of tools available for you, and then a bit of a repeat of these M&V tools. Mentioned to you very briefly the analysis and reporting. Again, it's currently unavailable with some modernization being done presently, but we do want you to know that the system really affords you some standard field reporting, but it allows you to make up your own report in the order that you want to see it and save it, so that year over year, period over period, you have the ability to pull the same report, but using most current data. Wow. I often talk to people that every year are requested to put together a report of activity, and they spend literally hours and hours and hours trying to find that data and assemble it. EPB puts it at your fingertips. There's a benchmarking section within the system. These benchmarked projects are not eProject Builder projects. They're from the historic LB&L NASCO database. There's about 6,000 projects up there that have been economically tuned up to today. So if you're wondering how those old projects look applicable, well, that's how. You bring them up to current standards by tuning them to today's economics. But really some powerful ways to go look at the kind of information that folks may want to know to ensure that they want to move forward with a paid for by savings project or a performance contracting project. It is a great way to look at contrasting data pretty simply through eProject Builder. I have a sample for you here to take a look at. It illustrates that there are K-12 schools, and we're looking at energy per square foot, if you will, saved, and that same depiction for state and local governments. Notice how the bar charts are different scales actually, even illustrating how the same question over the same period of time reflects different information for two market segments. And then there's a bit of a small list here for you to see of the kind of things that you can pull down. I've often been asked, well, how many of these projects actually meet their savings? Well, right there, guaranteed to projected savings ratio is available for you. So that's a bit of an overview of what's available in the system. We're going to walk through this workflow, and we're going to talk about this a little bit like a tennis match. And the idea of using the analogy of a tennis match is to reinforce for you that only one of the parties invited into the system has access to the data or that project at a time. So if I'm the customer and I've registered like everyone has to, it's my responsibility to initiate the project, give it a name, define my ESCO. And when I've done that process and submit it, then the system automatically sends both me as the owner and my friend the ESCO, John, in the case of today's demonstration, an email telling us, hey, this project's been initiated, and John, it'll be ready for you to use. Wow, how powerful. The ball was in my court. I served it across the net. Now it's in John's court for him to manage, enter the data through that iterative decision-making process. And when he's finished entering that data and uploading it into the online system, he'll pass it back to me, submitting it for my approval. Only when that information has been submitted and approved by the owner do the M&V modules become available. So don't go out looking for the M&V first thing and expecting to see it there. It has to wait until you've submitted, approved, and then that data becomes available. Some simple frequently asked questions: who must use it? Well, IDIQ3 users and a couple of states now are requiring, many others moving down that path, the use of eProject Builder. So if you're in the MUSH market, state and local governmental marketplace, you need to stay tuned to the state to make sure whether their program is urging or requiring the use of eProject Builder. What projects? I've mentioned that before. Any projects. Who can see it? Well, a few supervisory federal authorities. Past that, only those invited. And what outputs does it provide? Well, to call it what it is, it's a database. What you put in, you can get out. Some minimum software requirements, just so that you're aware of them. I think that stuff is old enough now that, well, it'd be hard to imagine that we haven't all leaped that hurdle. So that really brings us back to where we're about to enter data. As a reminder, how do I access it? Well, there's two sites: the main site for real project data and the training site. The training site's the one we're going to use today, epb-test.lbl.gov, as John and I participate in playing through a live example for you. So that's how I access the system, with my email and unique password. And with that piece of an overview, John, I'm going to pass the presentation baton to you and ask you to walk our friends through um, the Excel data template. Coming your way.
All righty, here we go. Well, hello again, and I hope after watching that informative overview that you have a pretty good idea as a preview of some of the things we're about to touch on here. We're going to get pretty granular into a couple of the data templates for you and for your review. And then Dale and I are going to go live onto the EPB user interface. We will ultimately then upload a project that has been previously developed using one of the templates, and you'll be able to see how that works, and you'll learn a little bit more about what information is available to you once you are online on the user interface. So let's talk templates. There are two basic types of templates. They're both in Excel format, which hopefully we're all familiar with. Hard not to be these days. One is called a calculating template, and the other one is the non-calculating template. They pretty much look identical, with the exception of a couple of exceptions, which I will point out to you. But basically, the calculating template has got a large number of back of the house hardwired calculations that take place, particularly referencing into the financials and the amortization schedules that are developed to produce the financing piece for an energy savings performance contract. The non-calculating template is one that looks identical, but all of the calculations, the back of the house calculations, are not operable, and allows the project builder to be able to enter their own information and possibly their own calculations into that particular template prior to uploading it into eProject Builder. So I'm going to start today with just an overview and show you some of the recent upgrades performed on the older version of the template. So we're in version 3, and I think we're 3.015 at this point in time in terms of the templates. So I'll show you just, again, a quick overview, and I'm going to begin with the non-calculating template and then move to the calculating template, because that's the one that we're going to do all of our work in today prior to uploading that. So you can see here Excel spreadsheet, and looking at the bottom of the screen, you can see a large number of tabs, which again, we'll go into more in detail as we get into the calculating template. But this is a new addition to the templates, which we all think is very, very helpful. And it allows you to just get a brief summary of the purpose of each of the various tabs that are particular to each of the templates here. So again, I'm not going to be reading these for you, but what I would encourage you, if you're interested, is to get yourself an account, register, and then download these templates and really discover, if they will work for you and which one might be best for you, and become familiar with them, because hopefully you'll see by the end of the day that they're very, very powerful and allow a lot of flexibility in some cases. So anyway, so each of the templates that we're going to look at will have similar tabs below, but they will all have the template guide. And you can see here that, and this will make more sense in a little while here, that some of these really don't apply if you have chosen certain type of projects, such as the UESC or the Utility Energy Service Contract version. So let's move then to the first tab here. And again, this is the non-calculating template. And one feature you're going to see on both of them is that you can actually choose what type of project agreement that this project is going to be. And you can see as I click on that, there's a drop-down menu available to me. And I hope you can read that. That's pretty tiny, but using the non-calculating template, the options are guaranteed savings, builder own operate, shared savings, direct funded, power purchase agreement. There is the UESC option, energy services agreements, and then other here as well. So what we're looking at is what the template looks like as we are choosing the guaranteed savings option here. I'm going to click down over here just real briefly, and you can see this color almost matches this color. But what this tells me is that as I'm in the guaranteed savings option here, that this tab is live and it allows me to enter data into it, okay? As are all of the other tabs. And I'm not going to spend time on those now, because we will as we get into the other hands-on template. So as I click here just real quickly, and let's just choose direct funded. And again, that's an option available in the non-calculating template, which means you can input as much or as little information as you want to into the template. And some of these then actually, you can see some of the tabs actually no longer are functional because they don't apply, particularly if you have a self-funded project, which means that it's cash on the barrelhead, typically no guaranteed savings, no financing period associated with it as well. So I just wanted to, again, just quickly point out that you do have the option as you get into the templates to choose which type of project that you are going to be developing. I'm going to now log out of the non-calculating, and I am going to get into, oops, the calculating template now. So this is the EPB calculating template 3.015. And for our training purposes, we were allowed to access an unlocked version. And so a lot of what I'm going to show you is only available for display as we are using this in our training sessions here. So as I mentioned before, it has the same template guide over here. And then we have the same number of tabs over here as well. Again, we do have the choice of choosing whether we want guaranteed savings, shared savings, power purchase. UESC option is available with both of the templates, but what you don't see in this one is the direct funded option, and that is only saved for the non-calculating template, and that's probably for pretty logical reasons. So anyway, the changes made here as I choose UESC as an example, again, this had been performance contracting based, that no longer is active, but the purple becomes active here and shows the UESC version of a similar table. So again, you've got the options, and again, I would just definitely consider registering, getting yourself an account, either as an ESCO or an owner, and download these templates and take a look at them, because they're pretty amazing. Hopefully you believe that when we're through here. For our purposes today, I am going to be using the calculating template, and we're going to assume it's a guaranteed savings project. So I'm on the summary schedule. And again, this is a common tab for each of the templates and the options within the templates. You can see the color-coded cells here. There are certain conventions that are going to hold true throughout not only this template, but all of them. The yellow means that they are open for individual data entry points, which you can enter or not. You can enter as much or as little information into the yellow cells as you see fit as you are building a project. The gray cells you can see here in these particular ones are actually blanked out. So this set of gray, you're going to see as Dale and I get online, and Dale becomes a project initiator, that the data points for these particular fields will be completed online and directly in eProject Builder. Another convention you can see here that you didn't see in the non-calculating is the red text. So as I mentioned, there are the back of the house hardwired calculations. For those calculations to work properly, they require certain data points. So the red cells actually indicate the cells in which there must be a data entry point so that the calculations do work properly. Um, if there is an entry with a 0 value, it is important to note that the 0 must be entered rather than a blank, again, just to keep those back of the house calculations live. So those, again, are the conventions. You'll also find at the bottom of most of the tabs that there's important information, just some background information that might help you figure out what the heck this means or what that may mean in that particular template. And then a section in which you can add additional notes as you're moving through and save those for each of your iterations as you go through the template. So let's just go through the information found in this particular template. So, as the name surmises, it's a project summary schedule. And you can see here a lot of information that we all probably agree is pretty helpful to have when trying to summarize a project. Down here in the project ID and characteristics portion, you can see some yellow cells. These again are all optional, but a contract number, purchase order number as an example. Agency name you can see here is a red text. That is going to be a requirement because that is going to be used elsewhere, and particularly in reporting purposes further down the line. Other options here, sub-agency, project ID. Over here in project characteristics, again, these, are project specific data points in which if you think they're going to be helpful, you should definitely enter those. This gray cell you'll see is going to be completed online by the project initiator, the market segment. Again, some more useful information. And then implementation period here. And for this demonstration, the implementation, which is synonymous with the construction period, is going to be 12 months or 1 year. And I'll show you why that's important to have as a required entry point. Going down to the cost and financial sections here, we have, if you want to know any financial index, enter that. You can see the performance period here. And again, because we have an unlocked version here, I just wanted to point out that there's actually a calculation in that particular cell, which actually generates the number of years that the project needs to be financed based on what cost and savings, interest rate, and that type of thing. So below that here, we do have the index rate, which in my opinion is pretty much the interest rate for the financing. And here we've got a good one. I'm going to change that just to 4% here, just to show you an example of something that might happen. So you can see here the calculated performance period is 17 years with an interest rate of 1%, which is not all that away from realism today, but I'm going to change that to 4%. Watch what happens to the performance year. So you can see the back of the house amortization schedules are alive and well in this particular version here. And so again, that's calculated based on all of the other metrics associated with that. We have other red text, project award date. Now for federal projects, project award date means that the energy service company has completed and the owner has approved the investment grade energy audit and has given a quote unquote notice to proceed to the implementation period. So project award date is synonymous with the beginning period of the implementation period. Um, Going through real quickly here, I just want to point out a couple of real important ones here. So the primary type of financing, again, it says choose from list. So lo and behold, you click on the cell and we have a drop down and you can choose the type of financing that is available, which could be the appropriations or cash, a grant, a loan through the energy service company, which is pretty typical for the most federal projects today. Loan, bonds, lease, another loan from the utility company, which could apply for the UESC projects or other. So you choose that here as well. If there is secondary type of financing, then the same list applies and you can choose. In this case, there's some grant funds that the owner is bringing to the table. Now for the amortization schedules, it's important to know when the payments are going to be made. First of all, are they annual? Are they biannual? Are they quarterly? Are they monthly? And once that's selected, then you choose whether or not that payment is made at the beginning of that period or at the end of the period. Again, makes a difference in terms of some of the numbers we'll see over here. Over to project capitalization, we can see some gray cells here. You can see this is nothing more than a value that was remapped from another tab, and we'll see where that comes from later on. Here for federal projects, it's the financing procurement price that is entered here. Again, a manual entry, in this case 400K, plus financing procurement price and other expenses. Again, mostly applicable to federal projects, and the ESCO enters those amounts here. These are, they come from other parts of the workbook here. And then we also have the start date of the performance period. So the performance period is synonymous with the end of construction and the beginning of the guarantee period. The financing period, there's just a number of ways to reference what the performance period is. But here, just to show you here, we have the project award date of September 30th, 2017, and we have a year's worth of work. And so therefore, the performance period then is essentially 1 year after the award date. So hence, that's how that's calculated here. And again, just good project summary information to have at your fingertips. Quickly, other information, the guarantee percentage of estimated savings. Now, in federal projects, the energy service company is asked to disclose, if you will, a level of confidence, I think this is, in terms of the engineers in ESCOs do a lot of detailed work, and they calculate energy and energy cost savings, out 4 decimal places typically. But are they willing to guarantee that level of the savings that they calculated? And at this point during the IGA, there's still some uncertainty in terms of during the implementation period, possible changes, revisions, surprises. And so the energy service company will suggest to the owner that they're willing to guarantee 98% of their calculated savings and feel pretty comfortable with that. So that value is a requirement. We'll see where that comes into play later as well. Other information, basic electric company, utility company information if you want to enter that. And here's the financial summary. And again, you can see here that these are calculations, and you wouldn't be able to see these again with a locked version. But again, I'm just using these as examples for you to see that these are actually calculated from elsewhere in the workbook. Okay, so that was a not too brief overview of the summary schedule. Now, what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to now start clicking on some of the other tabs so you can see how, as an ESCO, one would probably somewhat logically develop these projects. So I'm going to go now to Schedule 2A, and that is called Implementation Price by ECM. And that, again, just based on the title, should make pretty much good sense to you. So you can see we have a couple of column headers that are red, which means that there needs to be some entry for each of the cells that are going to be active in this project in that particular column. So here we have, developed by Federal Energy Management Program some years ago, a list of ECM technology categories. And over here is a drop-down list that is near eternal. But anyway, it covers the gamut of the type of technologies that could be included in an energy savings performance contract. So the ESCO must choose which is the most appropriate one given the measure that is going to be enacted. ECM number, again, just an ESCO option here. ECM description, red text. So this gives the ESCO a little bit opportunity to describe a little bit further based on the technology category, essentially what the project is going to be. Chiller plants, energy management information system, VFDs, that type of thing. So that's required here because you're going to see that that's going to be useful in a future tab. ECM size, you can see here that that could be meaningful to some people here, but anyway, that's optional because that's black. What percentage of the entire project or square footage of the project does each ECM involve? That number is put here. Locations, here's the room numbers, building numbers, what have you. And the M&V expense. Now, during the IGA, knowing that they will be performing measurement verification, the energy service company, does work to prepare for being able to provide the measurement verification. And these are the costs that are optionally entered here as well. So the cost of goods and services, you can see that's just the base construction price, manually entered by the energy service company. Project implementation delivery charge, now that is a federal project specific term, and that's a mutually agreed upon amount between the owner and the ESCO entered here. If there's any rebates or incentives by the utility companies, entered here. And then the gray cells you can see here, each are just sums of the values to the left of that particular cell. The $100,000 value you see here in this example is manually entered, and that is essentially the cost of the investment grade energy audit by the energy service company. So that's manually entered here, and that already has been mutually agreed upon between the owner and the energy service company. So this is kind of the project. If you look at it, and the ESCO enters all that project information here as well. I'm going to now go to Schedule 2B, and again, this one is active if we're doing an energy savings performance contract, but becomes inactive if we're doing a UESC or self-funded project. So this is where the energy service company develops their fees, their costs for services that are going to be rendered throughout the entire process of the performance contract. So here we have the cost of goods and services, or the base construction price, and these are manually entered by the ESCO here and totaled up right here at the $8.9 million. And then we all know that the energy service company has to perform design work and project management. There's commissioning and training. There's going to be measurement verification, and there most likely will be performance and payment bonds. And so there's costs associated with this. And this is where the ESCO develops essentially what those costs are going to be by entering a percentage which would be a percentage of the hard costs, and then multiplied here to come up with a dollar value for each of the services that they're going to perform for the owner. And then again, as you can expect, we've got sub-summaries down below. And here the ESCO also needs to enter what their overhead percentage is and what their profit percentage is as well. And those are calculated and ultimately sub-sum down below here. And if there's any applied incentives or the cost of the audit, those are all applied down here as well for the grand total of a $13.35 million project. Okay, so that's where the costing essentially takes place. Now I'm going to go to Schedule 4, which actually is hiding over on the right over here. And this is where the cost savings and also the utility savings are entered by the energy service company as they're building the project. So here we can see here, we've got some gray cells, and these numbers here, you can see were just remapped from the previous tabs. And here is the descriptors that we saw earlier. Again, just remapped over here into this particular tab. We have a red text column header here. So for the energy savings performance contracting projects, measurement and verification must occur. And for each of the various measures, the ESCO needs to enter which of the IPMVP, International Protocol for Measurement and Verification protocol. I always stumble over that one. So anyway, IPMVP, which option, A, B, C, or D? And again, we have the drop-down tables here, and you can see that we have A, B, C, D, but then we have other options that are available, particularly for if we are using the UESC model, or even perhaps a self-funded model here. But for the most part, for performance contracts, it'll be A, B, C, or D following the IPMVP. So now we're getting into where the ESCO actually begins to enter the baseline utility use, okay? So this is the energy used by the systems prior to any retrofits. And here broken down by units. So for electricity, we have kilowatt hours per year. And if there's a demand component, that's entered here per month. So that's a monthly value. And then for any fuels, you can see that those need to be converted to million BTUs per year, and that value is entered here, rather than the unit itself, such as therm or decatherm of natural gas. These actually need to be calculated and converted to million BTUs for each of the fuel types that are involved in the project. Here we have some baseline water use here in 1,000 gallons per year. And if there were others, those would be entered over here as well. So those are the baseline utility uses. Here are now the baseline savings over here, which I'm getting to sooner or later. So over here now, we're into the savings side of things, where we have electric energy savings in the units, and then those unit savings are converted to the dollar savings based on the baseline utility rates that again have been disclosed and mutually agreed to between the ESCO and the owner. So we do have electric demand cost savings, fuel, again, we have units saved and then their dollar values for each year as well. Total energy savings, everything here is calculated, even the electric, you can see, again, you can see this calculation here. Everything's converted to million BTUs here, and that is entered or calculated in this column here. The dollars, you can see, as it shows here, pretty much just the subsums for the values to the left. If there's water savings, we're now in the non-energy water savings, water cost savings. If there's operations and maintenance savings, that dollar value would be put here. And again, we do the sub-summaries in this column, and then the grand totals, obviously, as you can see here in this column. And here we come up with that same project number of $13.35 million. Um, Here, I think this is kind of an eye-opening column. I like this because it's very valuable in that you can see that some of the paybacks in these measures, they're tending more towards facility improvement measures or capital improvement measures, if you will. But the owner feels that they're essential and wants to include them within the guidelines of the performance contracting project. And so when you add them all together and you take the totals of the costs and the savings, you come up with a simple payback of under 15 years, which is actually pretty good for a project of this magnitude. So I just wanted to point that out, pretty valuable, and really underscores the value of performance contracting and being able to include these high capital measures within a reasonable overall simple payback project. Okay, so that was the cost savings by energy conservation measure. I'm going to click back over this way. Stick with me, and I'm going to get into the tab now called annual escalation rates. Just by nature, the multi-year financing agreements over, in this case, you can see the 25 years. The assumption is that the value of the units saved of energy and other metrics are going to increase if for no other reason inflation over time. And so in order to capture those expected future uh, increases in the value of the cost savings, an annual escalation rate needs to be applied. And what that does is it says here now that for each year of these 25 years, you can see that it's anticipated that the electric energy is going to escalate or increase in its value by this percentage over these years for the term of the contract. Same for demand, natural gas, O&M, water, and other non-energy savings. All have their individual annual anticipated escalation rate or increase. So these really are important because at the end of the day, if you were to do the math here, you would know that there is probably a 30% overall increase in some of these values over that period of time. How reasonable, how realistic that is, no one really knows. So I'm emphasizing here for all listeners that this should be conservative at best because these will set contractually what the dollar savings will be each year of the finance period. Whether or not these escalate will still contractually bind the owner to agree that that escalation has actually occurred and that increase in the cost savings has occurred as well. So again, very, very important to understand that these are not predictable, but should have a very, very high level of comfort with how conservative they are moving forward because they can change the story in terms of the financing as part of the project. I'm now going to go to Schedule 1. We briefly touched on that. This one I like here. This is called the annual cost savings and payments. And this is just a summary. We saw an example similar to this in Dale's presentation, but this shows the estimated annual cost savings and then the guaranteed annual cost savings. And you can see as I click on here that we have a formula here where those are generated typically, in you can see a hidden tab back there. And then over here, we have another calculation. And so if you remember, we said that back here in the summary schedule that the ESCO was willing to guarantee 98% of the estimated cost savings. So if you have your calculators out and you multiply that by 0.98, guess what you're going to get? It's that value here. And that's throughout the entire finance period as well. So the yellow up here, you can see the red text. Again, if you're using this template, there must be some data points in here, even if they're 0. So this is implementation period. So during that 12-month construction period, it's typical for some of the measures to be completed prior to the end of the entire project. And they immediately start generating cost savings, energy cost savings. And so this value represents a mutually agreed upon amount between the ESCO and the owner that, yes, it's very reasonable that we will save during that 1 year based on the early completion of a couple of the measures, $200,000 a year. So that's what this represents here as well. And again, red text. So again, if these are 0, a 0 needs to be placed there as well. So I like this one here because this pretty much sums up the project in its entirety. Now let's get to Schedule 3. This is, again, I told you about the back of the house calculations. This is the manifestation of those calculations, if you will. So this is the performance period cash flows. So again, based on interest rate, cost savings, and other factors, we have now calculated, like your mortgage, we have a principal portion and we have an interest portion. And again, those back of the house calcs do this automatically for you. And those are calculated and shown here each year throughout the term of the financing period. If there were any performance period incentives or dollar savings retained by the customer in year 1, those would be entered here. And again, all of these are just calculations that are brought forward. And then down here, this is just the sum of the values above it here as well. So that's the debt service, if you will, for the term of the finance period. Now, during the performance period, there are expenses, which means that the energy service company is still working for you as an owner and performing some of those services that we had looked at earlier. And under a federal project, these are the categories which are allowable for an ESCO during the performance period of the project. So management and administration, operation costs, maintenance, repair and replacement, if any, that would be entered here. You can see here, measurement verification, that is a required entry, so there must be a value entered there. If there's permits, other expenses, and here's a subtotal of all the above. Performance period delivery percentage. Again, this is a category that is fairly specific to federal projects agreed upon between the owner and the ESCO. And then we have also the performance period delivery charges, so the total, if you will, and then the total performance period price of the sums of all of these above. And here we now show the annual cash flow and the annual payments that are made. And again, we saw those in the previous tab here, and those are the payments annually for the owner to repay the financing obligation over the period of time. Real quickly and lastly, for federal projects here, we need to show that this needs to be completed. These are what's called the cancellation ceilings, and the way they're described below here is that it's for each time specified, establish the maximum termination liability for that time period and include remaining unamortized principal of the total amount. So anyway, if the project were terminated for any reason prior to its completion of the financing period, these would be the liabilities associated with terminating at that point in time. Okay, a lot of information, and I thank you for hanging with me. What we're going to do now is I'm going to turn this back over to Dale, and this is the template now that we are actually going to go live with, and we're going to upload this into eProject Builder.
We do want to always share with you that these customized group trainings are available. And so we have our email addresses here and of course, additional support there as well. As John mentioned, what we're going to do now is we're going to go a little bit live. So you should be able to see my screen now. This is me connecting to the internet, and I'll draw to your attention that we've gone to epb-test.lbl.gov. it takes me to the login page. And at that login page, I've jumped a few steps here for my convenience, but here is my unique email address. Shows me DeHaas at Synergy Solutions as the project owner in this case, and a unique password that's hidden from your view. When I select login, we're going to demonstrate for you exactly what that two-step process was that we mentioned to you before. Because I've selected login, um, yep, one click too many. Because I've selected login, I get an email from eProject Builder. And I'm going to open that for you to illustrate that I have this really weird verification code that I would have never assigned on my own. Of course, that's what makes it unique. But the system has now built into it this intuitive ability on my system. Some I've heard don't have this ability, but I can click right here at this hyperlink, and it automatically inputs that information, takes me back to this account verification screen where when I click on verify, well, I'm moved right to the landing page that I showed you before from the slides. But we're live in this test program now. So again, reminder, we have people say from time to time, oh, I don't know, being responsible for initiating a project, that sounds hard. Let's take a look. I'll click at the drop down. It says, if you want to do this, click new project. And that's what I'm going to do. So I have this arduous field of information that I have to fill out. Let's start with project name. Okay, well, I happen to know that this is an interesting day in history. This is Arnold Palmer's birthday. And so our project name is going to be Palmer Campus. And then I get to select a market segment. Let's use state and government for our project. Where is this going to be built? Well, I'll uniquely allow this project to be built in and around the Kansas City suburbs because, as you all know, of course, the Super Bowl Chiefs are playing tonight. And then I'm allowed the opportunity to invite my ESCO builder. Now, in this case, John's going to be my ESCO, and so I've refreshed the system, John, and don't have that here. You may have to remind me. I believe it's Jay Canfield. No, it's not. We need to
Jay,
use your Latin version, right?
there you go. Yep.
Email us at
Caesar
Trident Energy.
Emilius.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we've got email us there. My work here with the selection of OK is done. My new project has been created. And it takes me right into the project portfolio where we see the Palmer Campus project and my role as the project initiator here. Now I know that the system has sent both myself and John an email alerting that in fact, this project has been initiated. And so we're going to bounce right over to John, leave me being the owner so as to keep this as clear as possible. John's now going to be the ESCO. Coming your way, John.
Well, as Dale mentioned earlier, it's kind of like a tennis match where only one or the other has access at a given time. And so he has now served the ball to me. And this is my email that I just received that says, my Test ESCO account, I'm receiving this because I am listed as the point of contact for a new project called Palmer Campus. And so, okay, I've been duly notified that my work is about to begin. So probably unrealistically, my template is already completed, but I would guess that in real time that the ESCO would answer the call, and then between the ESCO and the owner, co-develop that the template for uploading over some period of time, months, year plus, whatever. So anyway, the lab is kind enough to give me the URL to log in directly into eProject Builder, which I will do right now. And so I am using my ESCO email address, which is Caesar Emilius, and there is my password, which hopefully you closed your eyes. I'm going to log in, and it's going to ask me also for that secondary verification code, which I should receive, which I have already from our friends at the lab, which I too will cut or copy in this case and paste it in here, hit verify, and there we go. Instantly into the user interface on eProject Builder. So as you saw earlier, the project initiator has the top three um, options here. As an energy service company now, if I wanted to apply for an ESCO accreditation, I would click here. And if I wanted to apply to be on the qualified list, I would click here as well. And so moving forward here, so Dale has initiated the new project. And I now, as the ESCO, I want to manage or enter data into a new project. So that is going to be what I am going to click here, and it will take me to my project portfolio here. And sure enough, showing up on my portfolio, because I was the selected ESCO, is the new project just initiated by my customer, Synergy Solutions. And you can see here the status of the project is pending. We have state and local government, and I am the project builder. That's my role here. So I'm going to click on that now. And what I really want to do is, assuming now that I've completed my template, I am going to upload that template into eProject Builder. But before we go there, I want to show you a couple of options here in terms of where one can get those templates. So here in my portfolio, maybe I should step back one more, see where that goes here. So on the landing page is an option for those of you that don't have projects to be able to download a blank template. So I'm going to quickly click on there and show you how this works. So now we'll ask you to go to a template download. Now, if you recall, we talked about the two main types of templates, the calculating and the non-calculating template. And hopefully you have a pretty good overview of what the difference is. So here's where you could, if you're experimenting, download both of them, play around with them, become familiar with them. Or if you knew which template you were going to be using, you would merely download that as well by clicking there. So I'm not going to do that. I am going to actually go back to my portfolio. I'll go back to the Palmer campus. And as I say now, I want to upload data to this project. And I can do that here, or you can see that over in the sidebar is here as well. So I am going to, you can see I'm in Palmer campus, upload the data to project. Then it asks you essentially to browse what file do you want to use, and it is the one that we've been working on here, that unlocked calculating template. So you can either double click and it will upload, or highlight it and click open, and it will immediately upload into eProject Builder. So I am going to show you now. You can see immediately it asks me now, do I want to submit the project back to my owner for his approval, review and approval? I don't want to do that quite yet as the ESCO. I want to make a little bit of certainty, knowing that what was uploaded actually reflects accurately what we did in the template. For me to do that, I can click over here on View Financial Schedules. And by doing so, then you can see here that we essentially have the compilation of all of the various tabs in that template. And essentially it uploads everything verbatim here and places it into that same format here. So easy to review. Here's my escalation rates. Those probably look familiar. Let's go to 2A. Here is my cost and the M&V expenses for each of the energy conservation measures. Okay, so I feel pretty comfortable doing that and approving and sending this off to my owner for his approval. So I'm going to click back here to submit the project, and it asks me it's in pending status. And if I click submit, it's going to go back to Dale to do a final review and approval. So Dale, I'm returning your serve with a high lob to the back corner. Take it.
I refreshed my screen to keep you from the watching me log back in again. And as you can see in that exercise, what happened is that fuzzy fastball did come flying back to me, and this hyperlink is available. Now, it illustrates for me that I can click into this project and see that it's in pre-approval status. Like John, I can look at any of the project data at any point in time. Maybe I'll just have a quick look. I can look at any of the individual schedules. I could look at the view financial schedules here. I want to draw your attention to this particular area. See me circling download? If I were at the point where I needed to include this information in a project proposal, I can simply click that and download it as a PDF. And so the file in its entirety, as you would see it here, comes to me as a PDF. I can include that in my proposal and send it off to the owner, or if I am the owner, maybe pass it to another supervising authority. So I certainly have that ability. I also have the ability to look through the schedules in the format that John has shared with you, looking at them to see what's here and what's not here, and if it's in fact the information that we've agreed upon. Now I'm checking time to make sure, and I think there is time for us to do this, John. What I'd like to help the owners or our listeners understand is that I want to make a change. I've reviewed this information that my ESCO entered, and I noticed that there's something that's not exactly as I would have expected it to be. I know at the last minute, we got slammed with the difference between this 1% rate, and I want to go back and ask John to apply that 4%. Economy shifted dramatically, money costs a lot more. I know it's going to impact my job, but I need it to happen. So as an owner, what I have the ability to do is go unlock this project. I'm not going to approve it. I'm going to instead unlock it. And when I unlock the project and I go back to my portfolio page, I'll show you that Palmer Campus is no longer on my side of the net. Emails being passed out by the lab to share both John and I that the project has been unlocked. John, I'm going to jump back over to you and make sure that folks see how that change is made, and then we'll move through the submission and approval process.
All right, I'm racing to the baseline for your SLAM. So we're back now into the template, which was uploaded recently, and my customer asked me to change the 1% interest rate, which we saw initially, which automatically calculated through the back of the house calculations, a 17-year performance period. So unfortunately, we've got to click that up to 4%, and I am going to hit the enter button there, and you can see immediately what those calculations have done. They've moved this out 5 years to a 22-year performance period. Now I will save. All righty, so I'm going to close out. I'm going to go back here and I want to upload that data template again. Click right there. This should be it. It's uploading. And again, before I want to submit it back to him for his review and approval, I need to view those financial schedules and make sure it happened. There we go. Okay, so we now have the 4% interest rate here, which is what I've been requested to do. So I am now going to submit this project once again to my client, and it's back to you, Dale, for your approval, please.
Yeah, I think that's great, John. As you can see now, I can't access Palmer Campus, and the reason is simple. I need to refresh my screen because I'm just showing an old picture. Now I have access to the project. I have the ability to open it. I could review the financial schedules. Of course, I could approve it blindly. I think I'll just have a peek. Well, look, John, the change that we needed to make in this project has actually been made, and who knows, maybe that caused us to go make some more. In our case, this is exactly what needed to be accomplished. And John, I just want to add to what you said. We saw the change of interest rate and the change in term. The back schedules would have been modified to reflect that the cost of money impacted other schedules in the project, as all those financial schedules are standardized in this calculating version. But I have in fact seen what I needed to see. I'm in a position where I want to approve the project. I have the ability to do that here. I'm going to collect approve. I get a second step to think about it. I've approved the project, and now it moves from pre-approval to approval. If we go look at the portfolio again, we'll see the project and that additional change of status. So we certainly hope that in our little period of time here, bouncing back and forth as user and ESCO, that we weren't confusing, but in fact gave you a hands-on perspective of how the system operates. We always want to provide just a brief reminder about these training webinars. They're in the slide deck. You can always share with somebody that we maintain this twice a month training webinar experience. So we certainly invite those from your organization or others that you know to reach out and join us. As well, the quarterly advanced trainings you'd best find scheduled in that help page. So that's a lot of information in a short period of time about eProject Builder that we're delighted to be able to share with you. We really want to thank you for joining us today. We're excited to be able to support this platform that we think is simply destined to become the impactful resource for all users and potential users of folks leveraging energy efficiency for facility and system modernization, environmental security, and economic development across these United States. We thank you for joining us. We certainly hope that you found our time together to be informative and instructive, and we look forward to the day that every project is an eProject Builder project. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Bye now.